There she blows. Alright. Let's see how this sounds. Probably sound like I'm in a helmet because I am. Bike has just over 600 miles on it. And been having fun with it. And almost had an accident on camera. Never a dull moment riding a motorcycle in Florida. So the real test here is gonna be how the sound is, if this is usable at all. I am very curious to find out myself. So yeah, back to the bike. I've got 620 or so miles, and I've been getting anywhere between 56 and 70 something miles a gallon, which, considering I'm wide open throttle 70% of the time or more, it's a pretty good number. I think I'm used to big bore sport bikes, 1000cc V twins. That's kind of more of my norm. I had a Aprilia Tuono before this. I've had a lot of different bikes actually. I have more road experience and some road race experience, but I've never had a dual sport. This is the first off-road capable bike that I've bought. I've had 3 cylinders, 2 cylinders, 4 cylinders, inline 4, V4. I had a Triumph 675. That was my race bike. CBR Honda 1000 and Ducati 1100 air-cooled monster. That's probably the most fun naked bike for sub 100 mile an hour riding. I think that's probably the only bike I wish I didn't sell, but outside of that, I like trying different things. And this thing, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I was worried it would feel gutless. I was worried that I'd be bored by it, but it makes decent power. Obviously, being about 100 pounds or more less than the typical sport bike helps it out. That measly horsepower rating, but it's very, very flat power band. The torque is really even, and adding the full Yoshimura exhaust kind of woke it up, especially near the top part of the RPMs. The stock bike would not pull very strongly above 7,000-8,000. That was, you're kind of running out of juice. And now I can actually pull past 9,000, and it feels like it's actually still making almost peak power at that RPM, which is really nice. It was actually a priority for me to make the bike cruise at higher speeds in 5th, 6th gear on the highway, and to be able to overtake safely at 70 to 80 miles an hour. you don't want to be stuck unable to accelerate at highway speed. You just sometimes you need to get out of the way, and I felt more comfortable letting the bike breathe a little better with the exhaust and putting that the 550 Performance ECU I'd say the ECU had maybe less of an effect than the exhaust did, especially in the power department. I think the bike pulled into the high RPMs with the exhaust. I did that without the ECU at first, and then the ECU just kind of filled it out and made the bike run better all around. I would say better throttle response, and it just filled out the power band just a little more. The exhaust is a little bit louder than I would prefer. I mean, sure, it sounds kind of fun, but when you open it up, it really is making a lot of noise. And I might put a different insert in there. I've seen some people who do the spark arrestor, and I think there's a low volume insert as well. I do believe that it was designed to have an insert in the muffler. That's what Yoshimura says, that you get the most performance out of the system by running the insert. So I actually contemplated testing it without the insert, but it was a little bit of a pain in the ass because I took out the screw, which is up inside of there with an Allen, and then prying it out of there was not super easy without like some kind of tapping from the inside diameter. So I just said screw it, I'll just ride it the way it is for now. Overall, I'd say it's a very balanced bike, and I've seen some people talk about the braking performance not being adequate, and I'm not really sure what they're talking about. I mean, I feel like I can shut it down rather quickly, especially using just a little bit of rear brake, but not even really needing that. I think you're gonna overwork the suspension before you're gonna run out of brakes. Now, I haven't done any endos or anything and lifted up the rear wheel, but I have been able to squawk the front tire and have that really kind of at the limit of traction, and I was able to do that with the stock front brakes. Now the Rally does have a little bit larger rotor than the L does, and I did buy a non-ABS model, which was something that I wanted. Maybe in an off-road condition it would prove to be useful, but I've heard the ABS system on these bikes is not the most advanced, and so I just did not want to be limited in any way from being able to push the brakes to the limit and be able to, you know, break traction if I need to. Worst case scenario, just that, you know, riding on that edge of what you're able to do. That being said, I've been riding for 14 years now, so I didn't feel, especially on the street, that it was necessary. There's also been a lot of talk about the rear suspension, and yeah, it is soft. I'd say the front and the rear are soft, but the rear is maybe a little softer. And I do think that someone who's serious, who wants to upgrade the bike or really wants to push the bike, they'll probably want to do that rear suspension upgrade. and I think I will, but I just spent a whole lot of money on this, and it's something that I don't need to do for 80% street riding. I'm able to ride around it. I did bottom it out and it kind of rebound real quick one time when I went over a real steep transition into like a gas station where the road, you know, dips down and up. So I could feel it, but I have not done any trail riding yet. That is the next thing that I will be dipping my toe into. I'm a new off-road rider. A lot of road experience, but not so much off-road, and I felt like this was a good bike to see how I like it, see how I like doing that kind of thing. We'll find out. Maybe this won't be the right bike for me for everything, but I think it's a great all-arounder. As a commuter, as a kind of do-it-all, go-anywhere kind of bike, I think it's hard to beat. One of the standout things to me is how smooth it is, how refined the bike feels. I think for a small displacement bike, it feels very well put together. The attention to detail down to, you know, really everything. The gauge cluster, the feel of the brakes, I think is great. The transmission, I think fantastic transmission. All the Hondas I've ridden that you know, of modern era, I think have a very good transmission generally. Very just snick, positive feeling, great clutch. And this thing actually has a slipper clutch. And as you're noticing, I'm actually pulling away in second gear. I've been doing that a lot. It's just, it makes great torque low down. I've even pulled away in third gear just to see if it'll do it, but and you gotta feather it a little bit, but even in second gear, you can let the clutch out a little bit and that it'll still pull right out of second gear from a stop. But yeah, just the smoothness and the level of refinement on basically a $6,000 bike in today's day and age, a relatively inexpensive motorcycle. I think they've done a great job with it. And I'm just hoping that this sound is going to work out. First run on this. I've got a different camera setup that I want to try. This is an old GoPro that I have had mounted to my windshield. You know, when I travel, I just turn it on and capture some clips here and there out of the windshield. I'm not sure what's going on here. And we're stopping. Are they going? And let's check out some roundabouts and see if we can't cause an accident or something. So I'm cruising, fifth gear, 6,000 RPM is about 50 miles an hour indicated. I have heard that the speedometer is not dead accurate. I have driven by some of those speedo testers in neighborhoods, and it was just a couple miles an hour off, but I would like to really verify it, maybe with a GPS, a phone GPS or something like that. I'm not sure what the best way to do that is. So yeah, not sure what else to talk about at the moment. I'm just enjoying the bike. I suppose I could talk about a couple other details. The tires, tires are one of those funny things where everybody has a different opinion, and then I'm not sure how many of those opinions I actually trust without riding with that person. I'll say for a road tire, these seem to work out all right. Yeah, I mean, they're knobbies and they're not going to have quite as the same feeling as a dedicated road tire would, which is what I'm used to. So you do feel it when you're leaning it over. It has a little less confidence-inspiring feeling, and maybe it moves around a little bit. I slid the front tire one time pulling into a wet parking lot, but it was pretty much a non-issue. It was an interesting feeling because it actually, the front pushed and I was actually able to push off of the ground with my right foot and keep the bike almost all the way upright at the same angle. And on a sport bike with a smaller front wheel and a shorter wheelbase, I feel like you wouldn't have had you might not have had the same amount of time to do that. I'm just gonna skip this guy here. And so yeah, it's very comfortable. The bike is comfortable. I can move front and back on the seat. I'm basically right on 6 feet tall and I've got long arms, but the bike is comfortable with the stock bars. I bought a set of different bars to fit, and I haven't even felt the need to do it. I don't know if I'll keep them. Maybe I'll resell them, and then or keep them until I drop this thing off-road and bend them. So yeah, we've got a lot of construction around here. Traffic is pretty weird. Barricades everywhere. See if we can push the revs on this, see what we can. I mean, it just pulls. With this exhaust and ECU, the thing just pulls. I mean, I'm almost pulling it to 10,000 RPMs. Definitely worth doing, in my opinion. Everybody driving the same fucking speed over here. Gets old. Says 36, 38. I'm at 36 indicated. Not much to talk about when you're going 30 miles an hour. Yeah, I think I'm gonna turn around. Nice move. So hopefully this turns out. I'm gonna do one thing here. I'm gonna reset the trip B and see what our actual MPG is. Oh geez, it always does. I always accidentally like cycle it instead of getting it to reset. It's really annoying. I don't know why I keep doing that. Alright, so 6th gear, cruising. I'm gonna have to slow down. 90, it says 94 miles a gallon, cruising in 6th gear at 50, between 52 and 55 miles an hour. So I'm kind of lugging it a little bit, letting it get below 6,000 in 6th gear. It's just easily pulling up this bridge. I guess something else to talk about unrelated to the bike is the way I set up my mirrors. I offset them a little bit. I don't set them pointing at the same, you know, middle straight behind me. I like to set the right mirror further to the right of the vehicle, so it's as soon as someone is out of your view and your peripheral when you pass them, you know, you being on the left and the car on the right, let's say, I can see it, that car show up in that mirror. So I like to angle it a little more outwards. Whereas on the left mirror, I don't cruise in the right lane a lot. I'm definitely more often in the middle or left lane, and so I like to have the left mirror point more behind. I like it see a little bit more of my shoulder and my arm unless I pull my arm out of the way, so I can see a little bit more directly behind me, and basically have a more full picture of what's behind me while being able to see what's directly behind me, and then also what's sort of in my blind spot to my right, which I think is more important than the blind spot on the left. You're going to be passing on, you know, how often are you going to be passed on the left hand side when you're, you know, I'm mostly cruising faster than traffic. I don't know about you, but I don't like to go the same speed as everyone else. I like to eliminate that rearward variable of people creeping up behind me or getting too close to me, and not seeing them or really being fully aware. So I tend to move through traffic a little bit and kind of trickle through as I go. That's about that on that one. Radiator fan is kicking on. I wish this bike had a temperature gauge. It's the only thing really missing from the gauges. That would have been nice to see. With everything else, the gear indicator, there isn't even a temperature gauge, let alone a temperature number itself. I've seen some people add one. They cut into the hose and insert a piece into there. So this guy doesn't seem to want to cross traffic, even though he's got plenty of time. It's a bit strange. The guy behind me getting a little feisty. You really only see the miles per gallon start to drop on the highway when you're up at 70, 80 miles an hour. Then it might drop below that 60. But in town, this thing just sips lightly on the gas. Oh, roundabouts. Better than stop signs, but they're a little bit small for the amount of traffic that needs to get through the area. Which way should we go here? Policía. We're not doing sport bike lean angles, but we're doing enough lean angle with knobby tires. I don't think this bike would drag anything with so much ground clearance. You're not really bottoming it out, leaning it over. I did notice though that I've scrubbed in the front tire more than the rear tire. The rear tire seems to have a little bit more on it, and I don't think I'll be using it all, judging by how much I've already leaned it over on some on ramps and things like that. just a fun bike. I think I mentioned it once before, but I was worried it would feel a little gutless when I hadn't even seen one of these things before putting a deposit on it, and let alone ride it. I was worried it would bore me, coming from pretty fast sport bikes, but no, I'm having fun with it. Basically just ripping it, running the piss out of it, as they say. And I think it has enough power to have fun, and safely get out of the way. But not get yourself thrown in jail too quickly. Has a nice balance of power and performance. Yeah. Great job, Honda. On that note, I'm gonna get myself something to drink. Until next time.